I'm not that kind of YouTuber, but I do feel pretty in this dress. Ooh, I really like this dress and this color. Oh my gosh. When I was making the dress, I wasn't super confident because I didn't work out the pattern myself. It was sent to me on Instagram by OK along with the ready prepared pattern instructions from Sewing Lab Milano. Their page is amazing. If you don't follow them already, then I suggest that you do. They usually post like a really nice dress, outfit, whatever, and the pattern instructions like with diagrams. So you're going to see that as we go along in the video. But as I was making it, I wasn't that confident. When I made the toile, I was like, yeah, but now the dress is finished and in this color,
I am seriously feeling myself. Yeah, in this smiling way.
This dress is another House of CB inspired dress. As I said already, it was sent to me on Instagram by OK. She's also a new YouTuber, so do go ahead and show her some love. She is another DIYer, so go along and subscribe as a thank you for sending me this dress idea to sew up, because I love it and I really hope that you love it too. If you haven't already, please don't forget to like, comment and subscribe if you enjoyed the tutorial. Here it is. We've got just a little bit of dress appreciation before I get into the tutorial. Here's what you'll need. You'll need a front and back bodice block and a fitted sleeve block, pencil or pencils, a glue stick, pattern master, some paper scissors and some pattern paper. Here is the pattern piece that I made earlier for my toile. I've got it all mapped out and planned already, so it helped me to make this pattern for you today. So following the first step from Sewing Lab Milano, I am extending my shoulder by 2 centimeters and raising it by 2 centimeters. Then I reshaped my shoulder to my neck with a curve. And you can just ignore the bust dart on the shoulder because this helps to add extra length for your pleats. Next, I dropped my shoulder by 4 centimeters and reshaped my armhole. We need to open up a dart on the centre front. So I've just drawn a line from my bust point to my centre front and opened up this dart by closing the waist dart. So I've cut up my waist dart and cut along my new dart line, closed my dart, and this has opened up my centre front dart. Next, I drew in a grain line from my waist going up past my shoulder because this helps for the next step. Next, take your back bodice block and place the neckline of the back to the neckline of the front, making sure that your centre back is facing your shoulder of your front piece. And the grain line that we've drawn helps to act as a guide to make sure that your centre back is parallel to your grain line. Then you can draw around your back neckline and up your centre back to the waist. Then you need to extend your centre front line from the waist up. And there are no measurements on the Sewing Lab Milano Instagram page. So I just guessed that opposite my neckline, I would measure up 15 centimeters. And you can see that they squared across from this measurement and added gathering, but I didn't do this. I wanted a back facing because I was having a back opening. So that's why I drew up my centre back to the waist. I squared across on my back waist for 5 centimeters. Then I squared this up and reshaped it with a curve to my 15 centimeter point. We need to add some additional width to add pleats, so I measured 2 centimeters away from my original waist dart and 3 centimeters on my shoulder from the armhole and connected these 2 points with a line. And I'm using purple just so that it's a bit clearer because there are a lot of pencil lines at the moment. Then cut up this line and cut around your side seam and armhole. Then I measured 12 centimeters from this cut line on the shoulder and 6 centimeters on the waist and drew a line to connect the 2 points. Then I took the side piece of my bodice and stuck it down on this line. Then reshaped my waist with a curve. Looking at their picture, I saw that they had 4 pleats, so I worked out that I could fit 4 4cm pleats. So I measured my first pleat 4 centimeters from my shoulder at the armhole, then I left a 4 centimeter gap, then 4 centimeter pleat, then another 4 centimeter gap, another 4 centimeter pleat, a gap, and another pleat. And this is the direction that your pleats are going to fold. The 6 centimeters that we added on the waist is going to be gathered up, and this is your front piece finished. There's no seam allowance added on my pattern piece, but you can add 1 centimeter seam allowance all the way around. And I did forget to mention that where the 2 neck points meet, you want to shape that with a curve and just add a notch, because that notch will help when sewing the back and front pieces together. For the back, I did the same thing that I did for the front. I extended my shoulder by 2 centimeters and raised it by 2 centimeters and dropped the armhole by 4 centimeters. On the back waist, I came in 2 centimeters and shaped that to my back neck.
Made a mistake. I need to, okay, so on my front piece, I've drafted this bit to my waist on the centre back here, but I've just drafted my back piece here, and I've come in 2 centimeters on my waist here, so I need to edit that on this piece. Let's get on with that right now.
So here I'm just making that amendment, coming in 2 centimeters on the centre back of the facing and extending that line up to meet the neck point. Then I just mark my pattern pieces, my front and back, how many to cut out. I'm cutting 2 backs and the front is cut on the fold. And again, add 1 centimeter seam allowance all the way around the back. For the skirt section, here you can see I've drawn around my front and back skirts, and I've divided it into sections of 5. So my waist to hip section I divided into 3 sections, and the bottom half into 2 sections, and I've numbered them 1 to 5. Then I cut along those lines, and for the waist to hip section, before I cut along those lines, I closed my waist dart as they have in their picture. So I closed my waist dart and then cut along those lines. I also drew a straight line on a piece of paper, which would help me to lay the pieces along the centre front correctly so that they're not wonky. So I stuck my first piece down, then I measured 5 centimeters and then placed number 2 down, another 5 centimeters, and so on. And I've only added 5 centimeters for the purpose of the tutorial. For my actual skirt, because my skirt length was 50 centimeters, that was my chosen length, I wanted double the length to make sure I had enough gathers. So I added 50 centimeters, divided that by 4 to give me 12.5 centimeters. So my gaps were 12.5 centimeters and not 5 centimeters. But that is your choice. If you do want a lot more gathers, then you need to add more in between those spaces. Then I just reshape my hip and my side seam, and you're going to add 1 centimeter seam allowance and 3 centimeter hem. The front piece is cut on the fold, and for the back you're going to cut 2 because we need a centre back seam for our zip. For the sleeve, I've drawn around my fitted sleeve block. The first thing I did was to lower my sleeve head by 2 centimeters because we extended our shoulder on the bodice pieces by 2 centimeters. Then I lowered my arm side line by 2 centimeters, which is half the measurement that we dropped our armhole by, and extended either side of the arm side by 4 centimeters because we need extra length as we did lower our armhole. Then reshape your sleeve head. You'll notice on their picture that they shortened their sleeve, but I didn't bother because we're adding gathers, it's going to shorten anyway. So I just straightened out my cuff line and came in 3 centimeters on either side because I didn't want my cuff to be wide. I reshape my arm side line into my 3 centimeter point on the cuff. Then you need to decide on where you want your gathers, and I decided that I would come down 8 centimeters from my armhole and 10 centimeters from my cuff. and this would be the space that I gather. The pattern is all finished. I've got my pieces all cut out and I have already made a start on it, like with the gathers. Let's get on with the sewing. So as I said, I've already done some of the sewing. I don't want this tutorial to drag on forever. So on my front piece, I folded in my pleats and just top stitched them down with a large stitch. And I also gathered in my waist. I am going to change the placement of these gathers in a minute, you'll see soon. I also added the gathers to my sleeve between my notches. And here is my back skirt. I have gathered it up on both sides of each back piece and added my concealed zip. Do take your time when you're adding your zip because the ruffles can get in the way of the zip. When I added the gathers to the skirt on the back and the front, I made sure that I came down 3 centimeters from my waist before I started my gathers. Here is the front piece gathered up nicely, and as I said, I come down 3 centimeters from the waist before I started gathering and stopped at my hem notch. Then I placed my front and back skirt pieces together right side facing and sewed the side seams, and here it is once it's sewn up. And it's best to try it on at this stage in case you need to make any adjustments, as I did with my toile. Here is the skirt on me sewn up. It does look nice, doesn't it? Don't judge my ashy legs. This is real life, guys. This is real life. This is what I look like when I'm at home sewing, but I do like the way the skirt gathers up nicely. Next, we're going to sew our back bodice piece to our back facing piece, which is attached to our front bodice. So place the 2 pieces right sides facing, sew up the centre back from the back waist, along the back neckline, stopping at your centimetre notch on the shoulder. And remember, I said to add a notch on your front piece where the 2 necklines meet. This is going to help you because you're going to need to snip in at that notch. So you're going to put your needle down at this point where you stopped, and then snip in at that notch and pivot the top around to sew the shoulder. Can be a little bit tricky. I'm just going to show you again a little bit closer so you can see what I'm going to do. So I'm going to sew up this centre back here, stop, come around my back neck, put my needle down, move my back bodice piece out of the way and snip into that notch on the front bodice and pivot my back piece around to sew the shoulder. So here I am sewing it. I have sped it up a little bit, but I hope you can see what I'm doing. Here's what the front is looking like once it's sewn up. It's looking very pretty. Here is the back, and it gives you a nice little back opening. Once you've done that, you can place your front and back pieces right side facing and sew the side seam. I'm going to undo these gathers here and this side and just gather up the centre. I think it will give that nice illusion of like a cinched waist. I think it will look a bit better than these gathers. You can't really see them, so I'm definitely going to put those there. I'm going to put the sleeves in now, attach the skirt, and we're done. Next, I've taken my sleeve and folded it in half so that the right side is facing and sewed the sleeve seam. Then I also gathered up my sleeve head between my front and back pitch, which is going to help me to ease it in when I sew the sleeve in. So here it is pinned into the body, and you're just going to sew the sleeve into the body and hem the cuff. On to the last step. I've laid out my skirt with the right side facing up, so it's opened out flat, and this is my waistline that you see along the bottom. And I've taken my top piece and laid that with the right side facing down, so the 2 pieces now right sides facing match my waist notch on the top and the bottom, my side seams, and pinned. Then when it comes to the zip, you're going to make sure that your zip is tucked under nicely and it's nice and flat. Then on your top piece, that seam line where you connected your back body to your back facing is going to sandwich the zip. So the seam is going to match up with the zip teeth. Then you're going to fold your back facing under so that it sandwiches the skirt. I'm going to pin it so that you can see what it looks like when it's turned through. Just hopefully it makes a little bit more sense if you can see it pinned. So I've just turned it through here and pinned it so that you can see what it would look like when it's all finished. It gives a nice clean finish to the back of the zip. There's no raw edges, and you can see raw edges on my top and the skirt piece, I'm going to go back in when I finish and overlock all of my raw edges. If you don't have an overlocker, you can just use a really wide zigzag stitch along all of your raw edges. So once you've done this step, you've pinned along your waistline, you're just going to sew the two pieces together and hem the skirt and you are finished. I really hope you enjoyed this tutorial. I know it was a long one, but I didn't want to make you guys wait another week for the sewing tutorial because you've waited long enough. So if you enjoyed this tutorial, please don't forget to give the video a big thumbs up, please share, comment and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next tutorial. Bye!